Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's Sunday night. I hope you're all well. Let me just move the microphone into the correct place. Sorry, I was a little bit late getting set up tonight because I've been out and about today, and I've actually done something. I've actually been flying today. I managed to fly 2 aircraft today. One particularly nimble, like this, and one, let me just reach down and grab it, less so nimble, because I actually got this in the ear as well and finally got it. Finally, he says, almost got the video finished. Now, the weather here has been atrocious for the last few weeks, and it's been nice to have finally got out and actually put some flight time on something. Not as much as I would have liked, but I'm in the position of finally trying to be able to get some content actually finished. Sorry, my computer's whinging at me for no good reason. Go away. Yeah, and managed to get out. So, anyway, I hope you're all safe and well wherever you are. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to give you a little bit of talk on this, the new DJI, I nearly said it, the new iFlight Defender 25, and my full review of this will be coming up probably next week. I haven't had enough flight time to really put the footage together I want from it. Everything else is done. But I want to talk about a bit of a comparison that I see people make. And if I go to the overhead between these two drones, because I've seen comments out there saying iFlight are trying to compete with DJI. It's called the Avata Mini. And it's an interesting product to discuss. It really is. And we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also talk about something that's actually quite cool, and that is the spark arrestor that is included not only in the Defender 25, but it's in the Nazgul as well. I got the lid off it, and we're going to take a look at that, and I want to explain a few things. Yes, Bruce, it is below 250. It is. Now, as always, I can see we've got everyone in the chat. Hiya, Failsafe. I'm going to work my way back up. Hello, Bruce. How are you? William Tan, Mike Bergman, Cool Cat. I think I said Failsafe a few times. Sonic Tonic. How are you? Let me just scroll back up just so I can see everyone. GMI, Expander, Floor Flyer. I think I saw Type there somewhere as well. There he is Type Mike Bergman. Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. FPV Gizmo, how are you, my friend? Hello, I'm not going to say it because you can't swear anymore, but I think I saw it. I think I'll go out and do some more Georgina now. It's a beautiful day. I'm glad it's nice over there, Bruce, wherever you are. It has been horrific over here. Now, before we get into it, I don't really want to spend too much time on the RadioMaster thing because I have put a dedicated video out on it, but I will touch on it a little bit just about the Ranger Nano and the Ranger Micro modules. If you haven't seen, RadioMaster have put out a PSA, and I put my video up about it as well. Let me just find it. It's a bit of it's one of these things, and look, it's very frustrating actually, and I'll be honest, I'm extremely frustrated with myself on this one because I didn't see it. And it's glaringly obvious when I look back at my video on it. It's like, wow, I missed that. I really, really did miss that. But, yeah, they have got this. Let me just find it. The post. I don't know where the post is hiding. There it is. Sorry. And they've put up the PSA. So if I go to the desktop, you can see it's here. And it's over the Nano and the Micro. Okay, now I reviewed both of these. They are fantastic modules, but there is an error in the initial production batch, and that error is that there is no isolation between the VBAT of the XT30 and the JR Bay power input. and there's a lack of isolation between those two. Now, it's not right for me to say that they didn't fit a diode. This is, I believe, to be a bit of an annoying error in the sense of I think some naming has been done wrong, and as such, the auto-routing software has decided that it's optimized the circuit to move the diode to a different place, which means it's no longer in circuit, basically. And look, there's no isolation there. Now, what is interesting is you could argue every radio should have diode protection for the JR bay on the radio. And I don't know what radios do and don't. It's something you have to investigate, actually. But I think what would be a very good policy for all radio manufacturers to do to protect their radios would be to put a reverse voltage diode in there to stop voltage coming back up that. But it appears to be the case that not all have. And that's now why the module doesn't, that doesn't, and it's an issue. RadioMaster are an amazing company. Genuinely, they are one of the best companies I've worked with. However, I can't give them a sort of no free pass and not talk about this, as I recommended the modules. So what I have done, and this is what I would do with any company I work with, I've not spoke to RadioMaster. They're on Chinese New Year. Hopefully they're not too upset or not upset. I've taken down my review of the modules. That will be temporary. I know that because once this is fixed, it's fixed. And I put the PSA up. And the PSA will probably come down when we know the new modules are fixed. But they really are handling it well. Its timing is bad for them. This has happened right as everyone's on Chinese New Year. So it's going to give them a problem. You know, they're not there to start looking at sorting this out. Now, the nano module, the nano bay module, may not need a new PCB. In my opinion, they might be better doing something a little bit different on the nano module, because the nano module has a wiring harness to a smaller PCB that goes to the connection on the back. They are dealing with it very, very well. You know, they're a great, great company. They really are a great, great company. If I just find my videos on them, the nano module has this sort of slave harness that goes, let me just find RadioMaster. They will be here somewhere. Radio systems. They are not that one. So they must be on this one. Just trying to find where I have put backup, archive, RadioMaster, RF modules. Right, here we go. So if we look at the nano a minute, and I'll get this up on the screen now just to show you. Let me just get to the right point in the video. Right, yeah, this isn't a great view. But if I go to the desktop, right, so this is the inside of the nano, and what you can see is, look, the actual connection to the bay at the back comes on a PCB and a harness to the board. So what they could actually do is add diode protection on this board rather than replace the whole PCB. I don't think there's a need for them to replace the whole main PCB on the nano module, because as long as they put a diode protection here, the problem is solved. It's as simple as that. And where the actual irony is, if you look down here, right, there is diode protection in place. They actually have the diodes in the modules. But there's been an error that the diode hasn't been placed in the circuit, I believe, where it should be. It's not that they never fitted it. There's just been an error. Bruce says, just stick a Schottky diode in the wire itself. Yeah, Bruce, agreed. But on this module, they don't need to replace the whole PCB. In my opinion, they can just either replace this wiring harness, so send you a replacement wiring harness with the diode in, or just replace this board and put a diode in. Nice and simple, straightforward, and then they can redesign this moving forward. However, The situation for the micro module is a bit more complex because there isn't a slave PCB. You can see that the module goes straight through at the bottom here, and if I go to the back of the board, where are we? We should be somewhere here. Right, so here we go to the back of the board. You can see we've got a diode protection there, which is basically in the wrong place. That needed to be there, is the basics of it. That shouldn't be there. That should be there, across there. And what you've got is the XT30 going straight to here. Now, the problem is that's the JR Bay power input. There's no easy way for them to modify this. I just don't see what they can do. There's no space to put like a slave board in between. Just slit the trace and add a double guide. 100% Bruce. Yeah, you could just do that. Yeah. And that's probably what they'll do in production. What they're going to have to do for users on this, though, I don't know what else they can do on this module other than replace the whole board, because I just don't see a way around it for them on this one. There's no, there's no wiring harness. There's no gaps. It's a silly error. It happens. Look, RadioMaster is such a good company. They will sort it out. It is a shame. But the only fair thing for me to do was, look, I wouldn't call it an oversight. The oversight was, I suspect, and I don't know for sure, but I suspect this is simple as a naming issue, and the auto routing put the diode in the wrong place. Yeah. Look, mistakes happen, is how you handle it. But it's only fair for me to take the review down until it's solved. That's the only fair thing to do. It's just one of those things. It happens. I've seen a few people jumping up and down saying, this is what happens you get with cheap gear. Look, they had no intention of this happening. This is just a mistake. It's just a mistake. Master of Smoke. Yeah. And look, the interesting thing is that there has been some radios damaged, and I believe it's mostly been RadioMasters. What I don't know is, and I need to go and have a look at, what radios have protection on their their JR Bay ports for reverse voltage. That's the real question. Most of the bays put out basically 2S. So using the module with 2S will probably be fine. This is probably only going to be a problem if you go 3S or more. That's probably only going to be the problem. I do know that the main Ranger module is fine. I've double-checked it for myself. The big 1-watt CNC one, it's absolutely perfect. If you've got that one, you don't have to worry. It's only the Nano and the Micro. It really is. But look, it's the situation today. It's a mess up. It is what it is. RadioMaster will handle it. They're a fantastic company, and genuinely, I think they're one of the best companies in FPV. If anyone says, well, these mistakes shouldn't happen, you've never made anything. Mistakes happen. It is what it is. They will fix it. They will resolve it. We know that, and everyone will get on with their lives. So, really, that's about the only thing to add on that. Now, as always, guys, if there's any questions that we're going through, and Cobin Wetson said, the fact they acknowledged the error in New Year holiday is much more than many companies would do. Yeah, look, they're not even working. They're not even working. And I have seen some comments around, people getting delays on stuff. Things are very tight coming out of China right now. There is delays in every part of the supply chain in China. People are waiting for their boxes, they're waiting for their modules, they're waiting for anything to come out of China. And look, it just is the case that things are slow. If you want something now, you need to find it in your home country. You're not going to get it imported very quickly. Yeah, I know they have said, I'm not going to say what I know they will do. What they have said was, if your radio's been damaged, to speak to them. If it's a RadioMaster radio, they'll just fix it. I know that for a fact. Hello, Drone Camps. How are you, my friend? Auto-played into my YouTube stream. Also, love what you do, man. So thank you for that, my friend. How are you? Yeah, look, it is what it is. But China's a mess right now. China, and I don't mean that nastily. Genuinely, getting stuff out of there is real hard. Real hard. But yeah, cool. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. I really do appreciate it. Now, that is about the only news this week. That I haven't really seen. You know, JB does the news, and I'm not. I don't want to turn this into a news, but from a sort of, you know, what's been going on point of view, that's about all we've had I can think of this week going on. We've got a lot of people waiting on their products to come, and that's fantastic. And for me, look, this has just arrived again out of China. It took a while to get here, but it has finally arrived. So things are a little bit slow right now. They really are. There is obviously a lot of excitement around at the moment. We've got the HDZero goggles. We've had the 2 videos on that. I went through the backpack video as well. I do like the backpack support, and I did see some interest. JB made an amusing comment. Well, someone made in a comment that JB commented on, which was, I spend all this time setting it up, and instead I could just basically change the channel. And yes, I get it. But it is quite good once you've got it all set up. There will be obviously a lot more content coming on the HDZero goggles as the weather improves. Right now, it's difficulty. I will be doing a teardown. I haven't done it yet on purpose, but I will be doing that. And there'll be a lot more HDZero content coming in the near future as well. Now, before we move forward, if there's any questions, please do put them in the chat, and I'll catch up on them. And what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to have a cup of coffee first, but we're going to take a look at the Defender 25. Now, let me just move some stuff so I can get over to the top. Or the overhead, he says. Now, this isn't going to be a review, but I do want to just talk about these two a little bit, because there has been a lot of chatter around these drones, sort of iFlight trying to compete with DJI, but also really, you know, is this an Avata Lite? What's the situation? And, you know, is iFlight coming after DJI? And the reality is here, no. We do have 2 very, very different products. We have, you know, a ready-to-fly Cinewhoop here from DJI with all of the DJI bells and whistles. We've got GPS, return to home, battery monitoring. It's built like a tank. You know, anyone who's flown the Avata knows this thing is genuinely one of the most well-built drones I have ever had. This thing is an absolute monster with regards to how solid it is, the plastics on this, you know, the prop guards, or whatever we want to say, the frame, the guards on this thing. It is absolutely a monster of a quad. It really is. Now, it does have its delicate or brittle areas. You know, the gimbal is one of them, but it is absolutely fantastic. Now, the Defender 25 is a very different quad. It is clearly a traditional Cinewhoop. You know, we've got the plastic frame, and it's nothing like the plastic on the Avata. Okay, I can promise you that now. It is much more flexible. You know, if I push there, you bend that. This thing is this. You know, these plastics are like what I think I said in my review. Tool grade plastics. We'll come on to the battery in a minute. We will come on to the battery. Don't worry, because I want to talk about that. But these are, I would class the plastics on this as like tool grade handles. This is not that. I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's certainly not that. Now, obviously, what we have here is 2 O3 based drones. They're both Cinewhoops, and that's really where the similarity ends. This thing is more of a traditional quad, but it isn't. It's got none of the bells and whistles of the Avata. It's cut back. It's slim. 247 grams with the standard battery. There is a larger battery, and we'll come on to that in a minute. No gimbal, so it's just a standard camera. O3, obviously up front. You've got the O3 ear unit in the bottom. You've got lights. We've got the 1404 motors. And look, it is a basic Cinewhoop, but it doesn't have the build quality of the Avata. And that's why they're very different drones. And it doesn't have the bells and whistles. Now, I will say iFlight have got a number of things on this absolutely fantastically right. For starters, the location of the SD card slot and the USB-C port is there. Easy to get to. I can just put my finger in and get to it. It's not in the way of the props. Unlike this thing where the SD card slot is just horrific. I don't know how easy. Is it a bit dark? Is that image a bit dark to you guys? Let's bring that up a little bit and see if that helps. The SD card slot is there. Nice and easy to get to. If I come in and focus, there you go. Let me just let that adjust. The iFlight's missing 2 blades in each prop, Bruce says. Hi, Fly Zone Drone. How are you? So if the camera, there you go. The location to get to the stuff is super easy on this. Super, super easy. It really is. It's fantastic. DJ could have learned so much, but it's an O3A unit. Okay, so it's the full O3A unit. You've got the antennas on the side there, the feet down there. What's nice is you've got a USB port on the back for updating the firmware. Nice and easy to get to. And look, it is that simple. Now, there has been a lot of discussion over what's on top of this. And let me just come out a little bit to show it. And that is the battery. Now, I do go over this in the video, but this isn't what I would call a proprietary battery. Right. This battery has a proprietary locking system. Okay, so it locks in, you lift it up, and it clips out. However, this is not a smart battery, okay? This is a standard 4S LiPo. It has an XT30 and it has balance ports. It does have that connection for the balance ports, but it is not connecting to the drone. It is not smart. It is not communicating. It is not proprietary. You can fly this drone with any 4S battery. All you need to do is adjust the mounting. There's no effect at all. What this is a hard-cased 4S battery designed to clip in quickly and easily. So, for instance, we just place it in there, drop it in, and it locks in. But it isn't proprietary other than the shape and the casing. You could 3D print a casing, and it will lock in. You can put any battery onto this, it works. There's nothing proprietary here. What they're giving you is a off-the-shelf solution, but what they're not is forcing you down that road. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. That is the benefit of this. Now, let me just grab a pack a second. Right. So, the batteries that come with this, you get a 500 milliamp hour as standard, which gives it its sub 250 grams. Okay? However, there is a 900 milliamp, it's a 550, I should say. There is a 900 milliamp hour for this as well. Okay? But that does put it over the 250 grams. Now, as I've said, this battery just locks in, XT30, plugs in, nice and easily. But you can use any battery if you want. Like, for instance, this will go in. We would just need a mounting system. We either would need to remove these. So if you're going to use your own LiPos all of the time, you would either need to just remove these and put in a strap, 3D print a strap or something like that. Or, and this is what I'm probably going to design, I haven't done it yet, is design a holder that clips in next to the battery and puts a strap either side. It's fairly straightforward. You know, there's nothing difficult here about it at all. And then you would just put your XT30 in the back and it'll go fine. So it is going to be interesting to see. You know, you're not going to get that. These are the Ministars. What are these? The Ministar 4S 850s. So these would be a good size battery for it, but it's going to be over 250 grams with that on. You know, the drone's about 180, 170, 180. You could remove the clips and then use 4 bolts. Yeah, holder for the battery straps. Yeah, because look, if you created a battery strap, that's going to hold this in as well. It doesn't have to be these latches. Surprised they didn't make it an option. Yeah, I've not seen anything for it yet. But yeah, so these can be removed. You know, they're not permanently fixed, but you can take them off. You've got to take the top plate off and then take them off. But there has been a lot of comments about, you know, this being proprietary. It's not proprietary. It's a proprietary fitment, but that's it. But they're not that expensive. I'll be honest. If you look at these on iFlight's website, right? So if we just go over to iFlight RC a second. Let me grab my coffee as well. And if we think we want battery, I'm guessing they won't have many drones that they sell batteries for. Here we go. So Defender 25 batteries. There we go. The 900 milliamp hours are $23 each. Yeah, they're quite expensive. So they're not the cheapest, or the 550s are $16.99. So they're not the cheapest. Now, flight time wise, I got about 3 minutes. Let me just see what iFlight are saying, interestingly, and I'll tell you what I got. Cinewhoop, Defender 25. I got about 3 minutes and then 4 and a bit minutes. But they do have the specs down here somewhere. I can't remember what they said. They're saying 6 minutes with the 550 and 10 minutes with the 900. I might have landed very early, clearly. I was like, I come in like 3.5 minutes because I might not have taken it down as far as I could have. That's the truth. But yeah, so it isn't super proprietary. It's just customized hard shell. That's what it is. And if you use them, but I am going to create a bracket for this. I just need to figure out what I want to do. I've got plenty of these. It's going to be one of these. I think, you know, something. For me, I'd probably try and do something that retains the clips because there is space there. If I look down, right, there's enough space either side. I don't know if you guys can see, but there is space either side of the battery. So what I will probably do is 3D print something that this goes into and straps in either side and then clips into there. It won't be difficult. It won't be difficult. And then if I look at the center of gravity, that's about bang on. Yeah, it's about bang on there. So making a 3D print fit sounds like battery strap with extra steps. Making a 3D print to fit sounds like a battery strap with extra steps. Potentially. The problem is you've got to print something because there's nowhere else for a strap to go. There is nowhere here. You'd have to print hoops to go there anyway if you're going to use a battery strap. Remember that. You're going to have to do something. So whatever you're doing is printing something. So if I'm printing something to replace the catches, I may as well just print a battery holder to hold these cells. For me, it's no different. It's just a bit more filament. But overall, it is a nice quad. It really is. Now, I will talk about it a lot more in the review. It's a Cinewhoop. It's lightweight. It is not as hard as an Avata. It's not, you know, I'm going to be open. It is not going to crash as well as an Avata. In some ways, it's not going to break a gimbal. And the plastics are good. They are solid, but it's not this thing. You know, this thing is bomb-proof. But the nice thing about it is you can buy all of the parts. I'm not 100% sure what this top frame is. I'm assuming it's carbon fiber, but it doesn't look layered. But it is conductive. I don't know if, Bruce, what your thoughts on it is. It is conductive. It's a composite, and it's conductive. So it's got to be carbon, but it's not layered like carbon. If I just zoom in, and I don't know how much you guys can see there, look. It's got no, it's just grey. It's got a very fine weave to it, but it's not a carbon weave. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. It could be a carbon composite. It could be, you know, there's just no carbon look to it at all. Probably carbon tissues for the outside layer. Yeah, it is layered. Like when you look at it on the side, it is layered. But it's definitely conductive. You know, you put the multimeter on it. Yeah, do you know what, drone cams? I had a when I was looking at it, I had in my head, I wonder if it's almost like a paper mache look. A type of carbon, you know, it's a very, you know, like they almost mold it in a mix. I had that in my head. You can see the layers down the side of it, but I don't know. It's definitely solid. It's definitely layered, and it's definitely conductive. You know, if I grab the multimeter, and if we just grab the meter, and if I just go here and here, look, it's definitely conductive. And if I go there and there, depends where I go, I can get, you know, obviously, there are points where I sort of go into it and I get loads, and points where, like there. Ah, Lon, pressed carbon fiber powder. That makes a lot of sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. They haven't used pre-woven mat. Yeah, I had this idea in my head, almost like you put carbon in a blender and mix it with composite and just pour it into a mold. That makes sense. They are plastic. The prop guards are plastic. Plastic. Sintered. That's an interesting term. Veneer. It's cheaper to do that, mold it, than it is to cut it. Far less material waste. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make a lot of sense. But no. Now, my full review on it, this is the ELRS version. My review on it will be coming. But it's a nice product. It's definitely not an Avata Lite. It flies well. It flies very well out the box, although it needs more expo. For me, it comes a little lacking in expo. I do like a bit of expo. But it actually flies very, very well. It really does. I haven't flown it with the camera on yet, so I don't know what it's like. But it's certainly not an Avata. It's, you know, it's not a drone to compare to the Avata. It's a very, very different product. It's much lighter, much more agile. Doesn't fall out of the sky. But they have done some really nice stuff on it. Like, they've got customized antennas and stuff like that. So that's the situation with this. And I will be talking about this a little bit more over the next couple of days on the channel. The FPV camera looks interesting. Lens is 03, so it's a standard 03 camera on the front. Evening, what's up? How are you, my friend? Hey, Sully. Chris Gleaves. Now, guys, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat now. We'll try and get through them. Chris Gleaves. Finally received my RadioMaster boxer this week and the new battery too. Amazed by the side compared to the TX16S. Really like it. Lucky got it before Chinese New Year. I'm glad you like it. Honestly, everyone I know who's got the boxer loves it. I haven't seen anyone say, you know what? I think you were talking crap when you were talking about that radio. That radio, literally, I love it. I love the boxer. It is everything I've ever wanted. Soft-mounted, somewhat, drone cams. There are rubber isolators on either side, but not like you have on the Nazgul. It's like rubber isolators around it, but the screws are still going through. But it is somewhat soft-mounted. Very poor 03 range, loose signal. Any ideas? Dex FPV, very poor 03 range, loose signal like at 200 meters. Wow. Okay, that's bad. So, are you using the DJI antenna that came with the 03A unit? Size comparison of boxes to QX7. I haven't got a QX7 to compare it to. I'd say it's probably a little bit bigger. Same size as the Mambo. Is the handle. I like the handle. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a great radio. 200 meters should not need 25 milliwatts, 200 meters. That's now. Look, you should still be able to easily get well beyond that. First thing I question, okay, are you using the DJI antenna? And when you arm, okay, are you seeing, does it start auto recording? Do you see the image change? Are your antennas connected? At that point, Lon is right. At 200 meters, we're almost at the stage of, is there a piece of string on it, or is there something going on? Because that's shockingly poor. I'd start with, what antennas are you using, and what is it auto recording when you arm? Starts audio recording. Okay, so that tells us it's getting the MSP arming command. Is what that tells us. Brian Lewis, will I be taking a look at the Pyrodrone Tango 2 Mamba CNC gimbals? I haven't decided. It's a bit of a tough one for me on the gimbals. It's a lot of money for me to review them now. I haven't decided. I would love to, but I'll be honest, to go and buy them now from Pyrodrone. So if we go to Pyro, I'll be honest, I don't think I can make that viable as a video. I just don't think I can. Yeah, look, I think it's going to be hard. If I had a Tango 2, I'd probably do it. But I'm not sure. I'd love to. Genuinely, I'd love to, because I did the Pro gimbals. But I'm at the stage with the Mambo. Now the box is out, I'm just not sure how much I'm going to be able to... I don't buy things to make money, but there are points where you don't want to lose money as well, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. I would love to check them out. It's potentially a bad unit. Now, just checking up on that. I wouldn't expect low power mode to be a problem on 03 at that levels, right? If it's arming and starting recording, it should... When you arm, recording starts, do you get this like flicker of the screen, like it changes? It should sort of like be a judder and change, and that's it kicking into the proper modes. Check all your antennas. Make sure everything is tight first of all. Will you still be using the Zorro? Chances are no, Geordie. The box is the radio for me now. I'll be honest, having now gone back to full-size gimbals, the Zorro is no smaller than the Boxer. For anyone who watched my reviews, it actually isn't any smaller. The overall footprint is the same. And I just feel... I love the Zorro, but I think there's just a few too many compromises on it. For me, compared to the Boxer. When the Boxer didn't exist, yeah, I think the Boxer is basically the perfect radio. It's still smaller, yes. It is smaller in the case, Bruce. But like when you put them side by side, there's not a lot in them. There really isn't a lot in them. Just catching back up on the chat a sec. Monochrome LCD for the win. Yeah. You gotta love a monochrome, Bruce. There's no need for colour on that at all. Loses video every time I return to home. Starts auto recording. Yes. Every time you return to home. That's weird. What drone are we talking here? Self-build, off the shelf? What are we talking? Is there a way to get O3AU to stop splitting the files longer than 3 minutes on 3 gigs? Not as far as I'm aware, Ice Darts. DJI, if you formatted it in exFAT and it's still doing it, then no. How does the FR Sky X20 HD get by with only 2 antennas for HDZero portion of the radio? It's just a reduced amount of input, Robert. HDZero has a rather complex RF front end. So the way HDZero works, and for me to actually show you this, I might be better going to repair.wiki, where I have uploaded a lot of images and stuff for those over the years, which is stuff I've done. So if I go to drones, and if we go to the HDZero VTX module, okay, right, now if I just explain what they do here on this image. Okay, so this is a HDZero receiver. What we've got is 2 front-end receiver chips. So these are the DM5680Ts. There's one on the left and one on the right, okay? And let me just get my mouse highlighter so you can see a bit easier. There you go. There you go. Let's get it nice and bright, shall we? We'll have that. Let's go 35. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And 255. There we go. Okay. Oh, I don't want to zoom. Go back. You got to be careful clicking on these images because they zoom. Okay, so we've got the DM5680Ts on either side. Okay, what this has is two inputs. Okay, so antenna 1 and antenna 2. So if you follow this down, okay, what you have here is basically two identical RF front ends. So if you follow your SMA in, it goes through this little preamp, down through a second preamp, and down into the DiviMath chipset. Exactly the same on this side here, exactly the same on this side here and here, okay? So they come into this and then into this. So here are the two RF transceivers that go into the DiviMath chipsets for the encoding. So these come in. They don't go straight into here. I was wrong when I said it the first time, sorry. They come into these, which are AD devices. I can't remember the part numbers off the top of my head. We can actually see them on the Scout HDs. And then it goes into the DiviMaths. So the way it works is this. It takes the signal off these two and weighs it up, because you can see the filters there as well. So it takes the signal off these two and then weighs it up, and then it takes the signal off these two, and then this takes the best signal into this, takes the best signal into this, and then it uses these two to come up with the overall signal. Now, all they will be doing, what we don't know is exactly which way they've done it, but they have done one of two things. They've either just gone with one of these, and you get the two signals coming in, or what's as likely is, no, they've probably gone with one. They could go with just one on each of the two chips, but that's just pointless because all of the cost is in the chipsets. So the chances are they've got one RF front end transceiver coming into one DiviMath chipset, and that's how they've been able to cut the cost. I haven't got one to tear down. If anyone has one and wants to tear it down and send me the images, I would love to do a video on it. But that's basically all it's doing. Now, the result of this will be it's not going to be as sensitive as the HDZero goggles, the HDZero VRX. The question is how much of an effect that will have. What we don't know is how much better HDZero is by having all of that extra front-end capability. You might lose 5% of the capability, that's it. We don't know. It's fully capable. You could just do it off two inputs. It's just down to how sensitive you want the system to be. Carl has done this for a reason, to try and get the very best performance. But in a budget product, there's a point where you start going, well, okay, you know, it might be 10% less efficient or 10% poorer signal reception compared to a standard module. And for most people, it's worth the cost difference. It's that simple. Sensitivity, consistency of image. Yeah, Bruce, that's a better way of terming it. Yeah, consistency of the link, how well it holds up as it starts to degrade and the signal drop. It's going to be complex because with all of those additional front ends, it can weigh up, because Carla has explained to me the way it works, and it takes the input off each side and then weighs them up and almost basically mixes them together and then puts those two together and mixes them together and then comes out with the signal. So it's complicated. It might be 10% less performance. It might be 5%. We don't know. It's not a major factor. We just don't know, though. We'd need to try it. Just catching back up on the chat. Two seconds. Hello from Canada. How are you? Why do things have to be so complicated? Yeah. Do I think the Boxer will come out with a color screen? Unlikely. Unlikely to happen. Now, I'm going to have a drink of my coffee before we move on. Hello, 507. How are you, my friend? Hope you're safe and well. Okay, before we move forward, guys, there are 166 of you here. If you found it interesting, please do give the stream a like. You know what YouTube is like. What's your opinion? Is the Boxer worth to replace the TX16 with a 4-in-1? For me, the TX16 is too big for everyday use. Just too big for everyday use. I love the size of the Boxer. Oh, thank you, my friend, TK. Yeah, welcome. I love the size of the Boxer. I just love the size of the Boxer. The Zorro is a fantastic radio as well, but I love the size of the Boxer. That's the reality of it. Tray radios. I'd like to take a look at... I still would take a look at... I'd like to look at the FR Skies. The tandems, they are a nice looking radio. There's no question they're a nice looking radio. But the Boxer is the perfect radio for me today. Although I do wish it had 2 3-position switches on the outside. That's the only thing I will say. Is it possible to set a binding phrase on the Boxer's ELRS setup? Yes, because I've done it on mine. How did I do it? Are you sure the Boxer isn't listed? I thought it was now. I might have cheated. I think I flashed it as... It's the same module as in the Zorro, and I think I just flashed it as the Zorro. No, I couldn't have, because this goes up to 1 watt. No, I wouldn't have done that. So what did I do? I did something... Let's have a look. I'm sure it's in the configurator. I thought it was. Let me just have a look. RadioMaster. If we just go to the desktop view. RadioMaster. Ranger. No, you are right. What did I do then? I can't remember what I did. Oh. Did I do it... from the web configurator? Where is it? Let me just grab it. I might have done it from the web configurator. Let me just check.
Welcome to HDZero Acro mode on.
Yeah, I think I must have done it from the web config. Let me just check I didn't flash it with some other stupid build. I'm on the wrong model. Wait a minute. I'm in crossfire mode. What I really like as well is the fact that I can leave crossfire on the back of the radio all the time. So I got crossfire in the back, express RS in the front. What more do you want? What more do you want from a radio? What is wrong with me today? Yeah, Boxer. So I must have done it from the web configurator. So if you haven't seen it, you can flash it from the web config. So if you go into the menus and you go down to Wi-Fi, enable Wi-Fi, kick that in. I'm just going to let that connect a second on my computer. So I'm going to go to the desktop and we'll go down into here. Find Wi-Fi. Where is it? Network. Express LRS TX. Click connect. Hopefully this won't bum my internet connection. This is risky. Let's make sure it's close enough. You can get strange stuff if it's not close enough as well. There we go. Go to 10. 10.10.1. And where did I put it? Does it show it if it's already in there? I can't remember if it does. Binding phrase. Yeah, I put it in there and I saved and reboot. So you got the binding phrase section there. Put it in there, save and reboot. Simple as that. Nice and easy. that was how I did it. Have I done any videos on the setup of the TX12 Mark II? Yes, I have a review on it. When you say setup, I don't know, did I go through everything, but I do have a video on it. We want a Mads Tech sound pack. You don't want mine. It would be continuous swearing. TX12's a nice radio. Hi, Louis. How are you? Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, let me just put this away before it fall over. I love this radio. Do I also like, it's weighty. It's got a nice feel to it. So, turn on the Wi-Fi, go to the configurator, you go to 10.0.0.1, put your binding phrase in there. It's a great radio. It really is. Okay. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about something I want to show you guys here, because it's quite interesting, okay? And this is something from iFlight. Now, if I go to the overhead, and I zoom in, and I'm going to just turn on the additional zoom for this. There. Now, this is their latest Nazgul. Okay, fantastic quad. The reason I got the top off it, because I want to talk about a component that is specifically in it. And that component, let me just find my tweezers because they vanished. Actually, we'll use a screwdriver. That component is this thing here. This little box here is a spark arrestor. So you can see at the back, we've got our XT60 power input. We've got our positive wire. Now, if I just lift it up a little bit, there, you can see, doesn't attach to it, goes straight down to the ESC pad. And then we got our negative wire that goes into this little box that goes through the box and back up to the XT60 on the rear. You'll also see that this is another little additional red wire here that goes to the positive to this little box as well. Now, this is what iFlight call a spike absorber. The idea, or spark arrestor, spike absorber, whichever way we want to talk about it, the idea of this is to prevent that sparking or arcing spark arrestor when you plug your battery in. Now, there's been a lot of questions about what this device is. Now, rather than me pull the cover off my one and have to try and figure out what I'm going to do, iFlight have actually now started to sell this on their website. If we go to the desktop, pardon my cough, you can see that it is now available as a separate device. Anti-spark filter, they're calling it. And it is basically a soft start FET switch. If I bring up the image and you can see it there, and if we go in a bit closer, you can now see what it is. And the very basics of this device is that it's just a soft start switch with a FET. So your negative is coming through. When the FET is told to activate, it will then allow current to flow, and as such, start the drone up. So the idea is it ramps up the flow of power, current, whichever way. It's not power as a term before anyone complains. It restricts and then soft starts the flow of current into the device. And the idea is, obviously, it's got a V+, so at the point of V+, there's basically going to be a slight time delay as it ramps up and then allows the negative connection to kick in. Now, I've been testing this to see how this actually performs, and it's quite interesting because what they're basically doing is adding a ramp-up delay, but it isn't potentially massive, but it does work. Now, what I actually did was use a differential probe to measure the difference in time between the input and output. Now, to measure this is quite complicated. It's not the easiest thing to test because you're not measuring positive voltage, you're measuring negative. Well, you're not measuring negative, you're measuring the negative terminal. when you actually try to take a reading on it across the two, it gets a bit messy. And the simplest way for me to sort of see what this was doing is with a differential probe. So what I'm doing on a differential probe is measuring the difference between the input and output. Now, when there's no difference, okay, when there's no delay in the circuit, the differential probe will stay on 0 because there's no difference between the two probes. However, what you're seeing here is the difference on the input on the negative in time. Dual trace scopes measure the difference between the voltage changes. Yeah, I tried it, Bruce, and I was getting weird results. I tried it with two probes on either side, measuring it, as you say, the difference between the voltage changes, and I'm getting weird results. Whereas this, I thought about measuring with the differential probe, which gives us an idea of the difference. And what you're seeing here basically is there's a 7 millisecond delay, 700 milliseconds, sorry, delay, which is this number here, between the turning on and then the equilibrium, or the voltage on either side of the FET being the same. So at this point, it's off. There's no voltage either side of it, therefore it's the same. At this point, we power it on. So at this point, you've got one probe at the negative voltage and the other probe isn't because it hasn't kicked in. So that's why we see the difference. And then we see it come back down and kick in. Now, what is interesting is it's not remotely as sloped as I expected it to be. And I don't know what your thoughts, Bruce. I was expecting this to be a lot more sloped than it is. Let me just bring up the other image a minute without the traces. Okay, so this is without the traces either side. It's not remotely as sloped as I expected it to be. I expected this sharp upturn, okay, and then I was expecting this to sort of ramp down to level as a sort of just a ramp, really, as the voltage came up. But it's almost like it's just a delay. It's quite interesting indeed. You know, you can see we've got full battery voltage difference between input and output, but I was definitely expecting more of a sort of a ramped effect on the device. And I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to find if I've got no restrict the slew rate. The FETs don't like being partially on or off because of the I2R. Yeah, I know what you mean. I was just expecting but then I suppose what we're doing is the FET is at the point the FET is taking that load for you. It definitely works. Yeah, so what you're doing is you're plugging the battery into no load, and then the FET is turning on that load 700 milliseconds later. At that point, your battery's already plugged in. You're not going to get a spark on the connector, and the load just kicks in. And that's basically all it's doing. It's basically a 700 millisecond delay to power on. That's all it is. So the idea is you're plugging your battery into no load, therefore it won't spark, and then it's turning it on 700 milliseconds later. That's basically what it's doing. Now, it's a rather, the question mark, I suppose, is it worth it? Should you have one? The device definitely works. It definitely works. It's a $15 switch. Yes, is what it is. It's a $15 switch. Yeah, soft start switch. Yeah. It doesn't delay, but it keeps the delta for 700 milliseconds limited. Yeah, okay. You could say it's not fully putting the current through. I'm using loose terms on how much it's putting through. I need to measure it a bit more. Is it okay to send 100 amp through the thing? That's an interesting question. So it's $15. So it's a switch a $1 connector. I think it's a nice device to have built in. Stephen Gibbs' point is interesting. Another failure point. Yeah, let's not pretend it isn't. You know, if that fails in flight, then the drone falls out the sky. There's no question about that. Short circuit anyway. Yeah, they do. Like the FET is a DC05 AA, according to this one. If we just look at what the specs are on this, they don't actually have a current limiting spec. But if we actually look at the FET, so it's a DC05 AA. So let's look at that, shall we? DC05 AA FET. I suppose we're going to have to go for the full number. So what are we? DC0 FDB FDBL FDBL 0150N 0150N. What is the rest of it? 80. On semi. There we go. So we found it there. So there it is. So we want... Now measuring the current on a... FETs are a bit of a complex subject when it comes to the actual current draw. Drain to source current 80 volts. Good. Right, where are we? Drain current continuous 300 amp. But the pulse drain current you've also got to take into account as well on a FET, and it gets rather complicated. Better to have an anti-spark connector with pre-charged contacts. Yeah, not a bad idea. But where's the switching current? Switching characteristics, turn on delay, drain to source characteristics. Where are they? When you're measuring or when you're trying to spec a FET, it's a bit complicated. It's not quite as straightforward as just looking at the numbers. You've got to look at the numbers, but there's a few things you need to take into account, which I can't remember. Off the top of my head, I'll need to relook at it. Drain current continuous, which is the VGS number, was note 1. Current limited by bond wire configuration, but they're saying 300 amp, which is fairly high. So it's not going to burn out at 100 amp. That's for sure. Protected my beard from sparks. I just thought it's an interesting subject. Now, the question is, how important is it? Do you want one in the drone? You know, it's down. Each person's going to be different on what they feel is a sort of requirement or a good or bad thing. You know, it definitely works. It definitely slows the inrush current, which, you know, prevents the sparks. The very basics are, though, it is another failure point, and the question is how you feel about that. I don't know. We've not really, you know, how reliable are they? Well, look, there's FETs everywhere. You got FETs on your ESC, you got FETs at every point in your quad. So it's not really fair to say that it's adding lots more potential issues. You know, is it a potential issue though? Meh. With a measured slew rate, it's probably not going to protect from spikes. There couldn't be any spikes from a non-inductive load anyway. Yeah. Only plug in next to open gas cans, an absolute must. Is it the same if you connect an XT60 slightly bent to the ground side before pushing in? It can help. There's always load. You've got load on the connector is what you've got. You know, it doesn't help, you know, when you fire up a drone, your ESC is drawing current to the motors to make a noise very quickly as well. You can afford a lot of XT60s, Bruce. And look, you've got to ask yourself how long before you damage an XT60 and put another one on anyway. Yeah, it's an interesting device. We're starting to see it on a lot of like ready-to-fly drones. iFlight are putting it onto all their products. There's one in the Defender 25 as well. They've put one in there too. So quite interesting. We're going to have to see, though, how it develops over time. Now, if anyone's got any questions, please do put them in the chat. I will try and answer them as soon as I possibly can. All manufacturers are looking for something new to sell. Just be quick on plugging in. Yeah, look, it's not a big issue I've ever had on drones. You know, I think for me, I like TVS diodes. I do like having TVS diodes in the circuit. I do like having a TVS diode there. It is important. I'm just going to turn my fire on a moment. Where is my cat? I can't find it. I can't help you with that one. I'm not sold the idea. No, it's interesting. I don't think it's a bad thing. Just going to move that large quad away from the fire. Yeah, look, iFlight are doing amazing work at the moment in the sense of they're very much building some of the best ready-to-fly proper FPV quads you can buy. They really are smashing it out of the park in that respect. And they're nice features you see in them ad. You know, it is nice to see these kind of features make it onto drones. And it's not just that. You know, they are definitely building some very nice, high-quality products. At the moment, they really are. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're making some nice gear. They really are making some nice gear. Now, guys, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat and I'll try and answer it. With regards to anything else I've seen this week, there hasn't really been that much going on. And I don't know, you know, we're in an interesting period. We've got China in shutdown. There's a lot of interesting stuff around the corner. Will RadioMaster sell the Boxer with HDZero pre-installed? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been told. Do I intend to make a flight test video with the new HDZero goggles? I have. What do you mean flight test video? I do. I've got more content planned with the HDZero goggles, definitely, when the weather shifts a bit. At the moment, it's almost impossible. Hi, I'm Jeff B. When you say flight test, I've done a lot of flying with the HDZero system. Not that much in the last couple of weeks with the goggles since they arrived, just because of the weather. Yes, you do. Yeah, you do have to go through the warranty sticker. But RadioMaster Ranger ELRS Nano with a plug-in external. Yeah, I started with that at the start of the video. Brian, is it Bron Lewis? I did start with that at the start of the video. We did cover that. I've got a dedicated video on it as well. Yeah, I wouldn't expect RadioMaster to avoid your warranty if you've upgraded it and something else goes wrong 3 months later. To be fair, radios are really reliable now. I don't know the last time I heard someone say they had a radio failed. Brian, sorry. Yeah, you need to cut the sticker. Yeah, he is right on that. You need to cut the sticker. I wouldn't worry about the sticker. I think it's just done for QC. Just catching down on the chat a minute. But yeah, the HDZero, I have the HDZero on my Boxer now. It's lovely. I have got a video cut of me installing them, but I just don't... JB did a really good video, so I just don't know if there's a point. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to make content that someone else has already done. I will cover it, and I will share my thoughts on it, I think, but I might do it a bit differently. It'll be okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bruce has done... not Bruce. Someone else has done one as well. Hello, Sam FPV. How are you? I hope you're safe and well, my friend. Just reading down on the chat. Yeah, it is thing. But yeah, we're in a bit of an interesting time because, look, China's on shutdown at the moment, okay? They're going to come back next week and the week after. I believe, and there's talk of there being a new firmware update for the HDOSD for the DJI FPV system or the O3 system. Looking forward to seeing that. We don't know what else DJI are going to be delivering as part of that firmware. We would like to see... we would like to see some of these power issues resolved. I'll be honest, it's really hard for me to do anything right now. I just cannot get out and fly. The weather is shocking on weekends. It's just shocking. Absolutely shocking. I'm barely flying at the moment, but that's always how it is this time of year. Look, it's always a challenge. Yeah, Bruce, not anytime soon. It's always a challenge this time of year. It's just hard to get out this time of year. It really is. I did 3 packs on the Defender today, and I flew the big quad. And it is very, very cold as well. It is very, very cold. But yeah, we've got we're going to get China coming out of New Year, and then things will be a bit slow on the ramp up, and then we'll see what, I think we'll start to see a bit of a lull now in the products. We've seen the price drop as a result of HDZero goggles on the Orqa stuff. We might get some new stuff, but I'll be honest, I can feel us heading into a bit of a lull. We've had such an exciting sort of 6 months. If you think about it, in the last 6 months, okay, in FPV, we have had the release of the Avata HD system completely out the blue, the release of DJI 3, the release of the HDZero goggles, the Avata, the Goggles 2, all of these new drones coming out off the back of O3, all of the new frames. There's been lots and lots of stuff. The radios, the Boxer, the Zorro, the TX. There's been a lot of stuff. I think we're probably going to see things quieten for a bit, because I just don't see... we're at somewhat of a peak right now of product, and I don't know where we're going to see much more come in the near future. We're not going to get a new FPV system anytime soon. Look, what's the most exciting thing that's going to happen now? Okay, so Avata are going to release some firmware updates that improve the system. They're probably going to release some bind and flies that have their system built in. They've already got a 1S. I don't know what else they're going to do. They might release a VTX with an SD card slot. I don't know. It's not exactly super exciting. It'd be nice to see. DJI will probably release an updated FPV drone this year. I think that's inevitable. The potato needs to end, and I can see DJI releasing something a bit more capable. Are we going to see some new goggles? Probably from Fat Shark, but nothing exciting. I don't believe, and I could be wrong on this, that Orqa are anywhere near producing a video system. Perhaps they will. But even if Orqa did, look, let's be honest. If Orqa released an FPV system today with a dedicated custom connector that fits to their goggles, how exciting is that really going to be when it's only going to work with their goggles? The landscape of digital FPV has very much changed, and DJI are probably the only player now who are going to get away with saying our system's only going to work with our goggles. You've got HDZero and Avata both releasing VRX modules and goggles, which means you've got both options. if Orqa released a digital FPV system today that used that new connector that they added to the goggle, which is very nice, you're going to have to buy Orqa goggles to use it, or you're going to have to be an Orqa pilot goggle user to use it. How many of them are out there? People are not going to go and rush out and buy a set of Orqa goggles just to get a digital FPV system that's either going to be low latency or high latency with retransmission. Low latency with no transmission. They're not going to outdo anyone. And I think it's going to be really hard for them to bring anything. I just don't see what they're going to do. You know, Orqa could make, and I'm not saying anything bad about Orqa. I don't mean this negatively, but the industry has shifted in the time they haven't released a product. Move that fire to the side slightly because it's cooking me now. The industry has moved. You know, DJI can get away releasing a product that has proprietary goggles. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's very, very good. O3 is bloody fantastic. But everything else, you know, it's HDZero and it's Avata. And if Orqa comes out today, brill. I'd love to see it. I'd love to test it. I'd love to fly it. But how many people are really now going to go out and buy another set of goggles that are going to be proprietary? The cake is divided. Orqa missed it. Flying Dutchman, a great comment. 100%. They missed it. They literally missed it. That's the problem. That's the issue. It's too late. It's too late. You don't get to know. Yeah, and this is it now. You know, look, I'll be honest. There's already too many digital systems. I think there's too many. You know, how viable is 3? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think they're all great. I'll be honest, you know, I love Carl from HDZero. I like HDZero as a product. I think it's good. The goggles are amazing. The HDZero system, I've been openly critical on the areas I think they need to improve because that's what I'm like. I think it's great. But Carl knows what he wants to deliver. Carl knows where he wants to go next. We've then got Avata, which are punching down on pricing. They're trying to get to the lowest end. They're delivering what people want and they're improving it. And then we've got DJI at the top. And look, they're the gorilla here. And yeah, and I just don't see where we're going to see anyone else fit into that. We've been very lucky with product developments and development. Small improvements moving forward will be great. I now need to refine, not redefine, and stop spending so much. Yeah, Stevie, it's a real interesting thing. Yeah. You know, I think the last 12 months has been huge. Absolutely massive. But I don't think that can continue. And things are going to get a bit calmer now. Things are going to get a bit calmer. They didn't miss. They simply don't have a product. Yeah, it's not for me to say. There are things I've been told, but I don't know how true they are. There will be 4 systems if DJI comes with a goggle light and they can battle the others. Yeah, I still don't know where DJI... Look, DJI, I don't think... The goggle light might just be the same goggle with DJI undercutting their own pricing as usual. You know... part of HDZero system has in store for us. Yeah, you know, the open source is fantastic, but what open source is going to bring is features. It's not going to bring fundamental changes to the system. The RF behavior is the RF behavior, and I'm really, really looking forward to the 1080p 30 mode. I think the 1080p 30 mode could be very, very good. Wondering how the new Steady View module does with HDZero. It seems like both of them trying to make analog even better. Yeah. With white LEDs on the front. Yes, Bruce. That fire's too hot now. It just gets rather warm in here, that's all. The OSD trouble caused by DJI might not have happened with HDZero. Yeah, and look, we've got a bit of a change around the corner. We've got this HD OSD. Obviously, HDZero supports it. Avata will support it. And it sounds like DJI are working on it as well. So it's really good. Really good. We're seeing improvements with it. But I just don't think we're going to get this mass hardware changes that we've seen before. I just don't see it. I 100% think DJI will release more FPV-related products this year. That's without doubt. The Potato is going to get an update. It's got to have an update, the Potato. It's gone on too long. So we're going to see the DJI FPV 2, probably. Smaller, lighter, O3 based. That's probably what we're going to see. Maybe even a better camera again. Probably see that. I suspect the O3 Plus. Yeah. Don't think they won't. O3 Plus. The Potato is the DJI FPV drone. Sorry, it's my pet name for it. A 250-gram DJI FPV. I'll be honest, I think if they were going to do a 250-gram FPV, we would have had it with the Avata. That should be the 250-gram FPV. But you never know. There could be something else that comes smaller and lighter than this again. You know, let me just... Weight-wise, I can't remember. Anyone know what the frame of the Avata is? What the body is? Should we look? Yeah, it's 251 grams without the battery. That's quite amusing. It's 250 grams without the battery. So they got some weight saving to do. Now, something interesting I will bring up that I had forgotten about, and that is related to the Avata, and that is an upgrade frame kit. Now, if you haven't seen this, Axis Flying have released an updated frame kit for the DJI Avata drone. Now, let me just find this on the website. It'll be on axisflying.com, I'm assuming. Yes. We go to the desktop. And they've got this new frame kit, which is going to be available for the Avata. So if we go under new arrivals, is it under here? I've seen them post this on Facebook now, but what I don't know is if it's available to order yet. It's not showing there. So if we go to Facebook a moment. Axis Flying. And here it is. The Avata 3.5 coming soon. Now, this is going to be apparently a complete frame kit replacement for the Avata. Now, I don't know how much this is going to cost. Some things about the image look a little bit weird because you're seeing an antenna cable going over there, an antenna cable going there. But it's going to be this complete replacement carbon fiber frame kit. Now, there are some things that concern me about this. Number one is the bottom plate on the Avata is a metal plate which is used for cooling. That is somewhat needed because that helps get the heat away from the main ESC and air unit. It doesn't look like that's there. What it looks like is they're replacing that whole bottom plate with this. It's certainly interesting. You know, they've put up this here as well, which is their video of it. Let's just get past this. And they're showing you their design process. Which, okay, so if we look at this a minute, you can see that it's, you know, there's large standoffs here. And obviously this open area here in the middle is where the stack is going to need to be. So the battery is going straight onto that carbon fiber plate from the look of it. The VPS module is underneath. So that area there in the middle is where the stack is going to go. Underneath. So they have basically completed or created a custom frame for the Avata. And they're making it more like a Cinewoop, as has been said there. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. You know, I don't know how much you need this. No death roll. Nice to see. So it will actually behave. The ducts don't, as someone has said, the ducts don't appear to be very crash proof. Yeah, it doesn't look as solid. It's definitely interesting. And as always with Axis, they always do weird and interesting things. But yeah, this is coming in February. We don't know what it's going to cost. And I am super interested and confused about this. But what you can say about Axis is they definitely deliver products that no one else does. They really do. So if we look here, you know, look, it's definitely a carbon fiber frame for the Avata. You know, you can clearly see it's a full carbon fiber section. Basically, complete replacement frame kit. You probably absolutely do get better performance. Now, if we just look at it there, you can see that image there. What you've got is that's the O3 antennas going across. So they haven't fully figured out a good way of mounting them yet by the look of it. You've got much thinner ducts all the way around. I suppose what this is going to be, it's going to be the lightest possible Avata. It's super interesting. They give you unique designs. That's what... Yeah, there's no question they do super interesting stuff. But I'm just not sure. I think I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have no choice. I think I'm going to have to do it. But we did see that this is. So, it's happening. That's it. We're going to see it in the future. I don't know what it's going to cost. We don't know how well it's going to fly. We don't know the weight. We don't know anything yet. All we know is this. All we know is the video I've shared with you in this. It's certainly not going to have the resilience the Avata has. That's for sure. It's not going to have that solid plastics like this has. But remember, a lighter weight Cinewoop Avata could still be interesting. Could still be interesting. You know, you saw just now, she's a heavy animal. She's 250 grams without the battery. So, you know, there's potentially good savings there. I do just wonder, you know, you're almost at the stage of thinking, it's that. But this doesn't have GPS and this doesn't have a movable gimbal. So, interesting. So, the complete bumper is going to be on standoffs. Yeah, interesting. 4-cell. Yeah, you're still going to have to use a DJI battery. That's just going to be a fact. You're not going to get away with not using that. I knew someone would develop a kit. It was always going to happen. Someone would develop one. It was just always going to happen. We just don't know how it was going to turn out in the end. That's the thing with it. But super interesting nonetheless. And I look forward to seeing how it comes out. Okay. Now, before I wrap this one up, I just want to say, if you've got any more questions, please do let me know. Tune is going to be a problem expander, 100%. I have wondered what the tune's going to be like. We were working on that design for a few months. Interesting. It looks super interesting. It looks super interesting. I just can't decide if it's like... What you got to say about Axis, and I'll say this about Axis Flying. I don't know them. I've never worked with them. They're not a company I've had review samples from or anything like that. They really do make super unusual and interesting products. There's no question about that. Zero question. They think out of the box, and that's a good thing. You know, that it's always nice to see. They have a flight stack which I think looks bloody fantastic. If I go back to the desktop, they've got this flight stack which I think looks brill. It's like a rugged flight stack in a casing. Here it is. I think this looks a super nice piece of kit. It really, really does. You know, they do some nice, interesting stuff. They really do. Modular, solid. You know, you can't knock them for doing stuff differently. They had that, and they had another one in the past as well I like the look of. There it is. The plug and play stack as well, which was another one. Really interesting product. But yeah, they certainly do some interesting stuff. And I like stuff like this. You know, the Axis Fly-In Pro plug and play F7. You've got the plug and play stack 55 amp and 65 amp F7. So there you go. So look, this thing looks solid. This thing looks absolutely bomb-proof. Can't knock that. Look at that. You're not knocking a component off that board. If you're after like a fully rigid flight stack, yeah. They're doing some nice stuff. It's not going to be for everyone, but they're definitely doing some nice stuff. As I've said, they're not a company I work with. They're not someone I've had review samples from or nothing in the past. I wasn't particularly taken with their Thor Express RS module. I just thought it was a bit of a strange one. But I do like some of the other stuff they do. I really do. But yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how it looks. You know, that's it. Right, guys. What's the time? Right, before I wrap this one up, tonight, we're going to go on a little bit longer. If you've got any questions, now's the time to it. Other than that, that's pretty much all of the news I think I've seen this week. There really hasn't been anything else. Are the Mamba stacks reliable? Generally, yes. Do I know anything about drones with thermal cameras? I've fitted flares on many a drone in the past. Do I need a back for the Avata system? Or could I use a capacitor instead? Right, if you're using any digital VTX, you want to put on as big a capacitor as you can. My personal preference is to always try and power off a back. But take into account here, personal preference. I personally prefer to run off a back. If not, a large capacitor, and if you really want to help yourself, get yourself one of these. Funny enough, they're on my desk because I just ordered some more spike absorbers from Tech. I love these things. I think they're fantastic. You really... I put these on all my quads. Let me open this one up. Brand new. I ordered another 5 the other day when I ordered in a flight controller. These are 3 TVS diodes on a board. And I've just not had a failure since I've used these. I like these. I really, really like them. You can get similar devices from other manufacturers. You've got that one there. Let me just reach back. Maytech make these ones. So these ones are 2 TVS diodes on a board. Okay. So the 4 boards, they are connected, that you solder a capacitor that they include to as well. So they give you a 470 35 volt UF capacitor in the pack. And then what you do is mount that on that side of the board like that. You solder it through. And then that gives you your XT60 on there. Direct through. And your capacitor saving. So you've got your XT60 there with the capacitor there as well, ready to solder straight onto. So they have these as well. I personally always use spike absorbers. I have done a huge amount of testing on the scope. And I am strongly of the opinion they make a difference. They absolutely do make a difference. The question... Okay. The question is not... Sorry, let me get my head straight on this. Right. Spike absorbers. The question is not, do they work? The question is, do they make a difference on an FPV quad? They absolutely work. They absolutely stop spikes that are on the system. There are spikes when you plug a battery in that your capacitor will not necessarily absorb. The question is, does the spike absorber stop something from being damaged? Now, there is lots of opinions on these. Jay at the ExpressRS dev team did a lot of testing and basically said they make no difference. I personally believe they do. I have a video pretty much filmed where I show what a spike absorber actually does. The question of them doing their job is it's no one can deny it cuts a spike. The question is are those spikes dangerous? That's the real question. And are there spikes in a system that we can't see? I'm not talking about when you plug a battery in. I'm talking about in the event of a crash, in the event of a motor stopping. I know Jay tested it. He was trying to stop the motors himself. He was banging the props and he's tested that. But I still firmly believe they make a difference. And I'm of the opinion of this. If I'm spending 170 quid on a VTX, as the evidence is not clear, I'm going to spend 3 quid on a spike absorber or 4 quid on a spike absorber. I am just going to do it. It's that simple. Do the diodes have latency? They're much faster than a capacitor. I personally believe they make a difference. It's going to be really hard to prove. It's going to be impossible to prove it. What I can show you is this. I can show you a TVS diode cutting off a voltage spike. That's easy. They work. There's no question they do that. So the TVS diodes start kicking in about 35 volts and then they'll cut it. In fact, there's a very real possibility I'll have an image of that on the USB drive that is in that this computer right now. Is it? Let me just have a look. Yes. Right, let me show you this. No. That's amp. Ignore that. I thought that was something it wasn't. Are they on here or not? I don't know. I don't think they are. Bugger. Thought they were. I thought I had my results on this. Yeah, I haven't. Right, okay. So, we know it makes a difference, okay? We know the spike absorber draws spikes. The question is, are there spikes there that cause damage? That's the question here. The question isn't, does a TVS diode or a spike absorber work? The answer to that is yes. It is without a single questionable doubt that they absorb spikes above the voltage that they're set to. So if they're designed to start cutting at 35 or 40. The question is, are those spikes dangerous in a system? And that's the bit that is open to debate. That's the bit that is unknown. I need one of those for a 63 volt. Isn't capacitor supposed to clean up VTX camera noise as well? Yeah, a capacitor will... Right. What a capacitor does is try to resist change. Okay? That's the easiest term to use. A capacitor is trying to resist change. As does an inductor, as does these. They do it in a different way, but what each capacitor tries to do is resist change. So, for instance, when you plug in, your voltage tries to increase quickly. What the capacitor does is try to resist that change in voltage and absorb it, and it will absorb that spike. It won't absorb it all, but it will absorb any major spikes. It's the same when you have a capacitor at a float voltage, okay? So it's sitting here at whatever your VBAT is. Let's say 6S. A spike comes through. What the capacitor tries to do is resist that change. So it absorbs that energy. The spike comes on and it goes, I don't want to... no, we're not doing that. It absorbs it. But there's a point where it can only do so much. And it depends on the size of the capacitor. And look, I'm trying to do this in very basic terms here. But what your capacitor is trying to do is resist change. What a TVS diode does is a bit different. When those spikes come through, there's a point where it goes, oh, that's the limit, and shorts them down to earth. And that's what a TVS diode does. It doesn't absorb them. It's above a certain level, it starts passing that to earth. That's all it does. So it opens the gate to earth. And that's what it does. Now, what we don't understand is if there are situations in a crash, in a flight, that spikes will cause your ESC to fail or your ear unit to burn out. I believe there are. And that's why I always use a TVS diode spike absorber. Without question. On all of my builds. And I just think for the cost, it's just worth it. Trust me, there are many complications around measuring transients, measuring spikes. It is not a black and white subject. If you start looking into graphics cards, right, and say the new 4090 and search for transients and have a look at Gamers Nexus's findings, you've got some current transients that running into some incredible numbers. Incredible numbers. Yeah, it's an insurance policy. That's a great term, James. It's an insurance policy. For the cost, it's just not worth it. And look, my preferred ones are the FatTech ones. I do like the FatTech ones. I'm trying to get one back in the bag. I ordered 5 of them last week. I think they're very good. I think they do a great job. Ken Walters. Capacitor is an analogous to an accumulator for all mechanically minded. Yeah. Yeah. You know, capacitor wants to resist change. It is a very simple term I use. I do have a video I want to look at on this, but the problem is, and I've been thinking about this for a while, I actually built a spike creating device. Sorry, let me just get this in the bag. It's doing me nuts. I'm going to have to... I want to try and put it away in the bag, because if I don't put it in the bag, I'll lose it. Right. Stay there, you. Fine. It's back in now. I got them everywhere. Funny enough, right? I ordered 5 of them, look. FetTech. My order came last week from the guys at FetTech. This and the G4 I placed order for. So, okay. See you later, drone cams. Stay safe, my friend. So, I created a device to create spikes with an Arduino to be able to test spike absorbers. So I have a device which triggers a very fast spike that the spike absorber, and I can preset the level I want it to test it. And it absolutely works. It's brilliant. Works no problem at all. Very cool. The hard part is going to be proving what a drone sees as spikes. Now, I have done some tests. For instance, when you plug in the power to a quad or drone, you can see spikes up to sort of 50, 60, 70 volts. What's quite hard is to see what a capacitor will do compared to a spike absorber. And look, you could test this 1,000 times and the capacitor would work every time until the one time where it doesn't. And that's it. So, look, that's the situation. There's a lot of opinions on them. I personally believe they're a must. So, what got me into this conversation was, do I recommend using a BEC with O3? My personal setup for every digital VTX is as follows. I prefer a digital VTX on a BEC, but it isn't the be-all end-all. If the digital VTX is on a BEC, the flight controller will have a capacitor and a TVS diode on the input. If the air unit is going straight to VBAT, I will make sure that on the lines to that air unit, there will be a TVS diode and the capacitor as well. I'm not saying do 2, but I would just make sure that it's at that point it connects. So, that's my opinion. Did I get the HDZero goggles? Yes, I did, mate. I've been out all day. Yeah, I'm going to look into it. I'm definitely going to look into it. I'm not breaking mine to make a video, though. You want me to rip off my SMA? Do DJI Version 2 batteries have limited lifespan? Mine cut out the other day and it seemed to be about 60% when I got home. Not usually. Temperature's usually the killer on batteries. But you might only get 100, 150 cycles out of a DJI battery. To be honest, you might not get many more than that. Thankfully it was on the ground. Interesting. In other news, my Walksnail VTX came with a dead HDMI output. Oh wow, have you checked the cable just in case it's a bad cable, James? Because it does happen. It does happen. Just looking what the time was, gents. Sorry. Man, I always show up late. Right, guys. I'm going to call it a quit on this one. I want to thank everyone for spending some time with me tonight. I really do appreciate it, as always. The plan is to be back same time, same place next week. I don't know what we'll know. We'll find out in the week as things go. As always, please do look after yourself. Please do stay safe. And I'll speak to you soon. Now I got to try and find out how to shut the stream down. Why is it always terrible to shut down a stream on YouTube? It always is. Anyway, stay safe, guys. I'll speak to you later.